Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Sword Art Online video. In this video, I'm going to be opening up the Sword Art Online Alicization trial deck from the card game Weiss Schwarz. So you probably know to some degree if you followed my channel for a certain amount of time that I do sort of occasional trading card game content on my channel, but not too much. It was more something I did like a bunch of years ago where I kind of did like a sort of like how to play series and a bunch of different trading card games and kind of gave my opinion on like this one and this one. And I think years ago I promised I would do a Weiss Schwarz video, and I think I went to record it like 3 or 4 times and it just like something got in the way. And so it just never happened. So finally here is a Weiss Schwarz video, and I will go over some of the how to play stuff towards the end of the video. But we're going to start off here by focusing in on this. This is a relatively recent release, I think in the last like week or two, is the Sword Art Online Alicization, whatever way you want to pronounce it, trial deck and also booster set. Unfortunately I don't have any of the packs here, but I do have the trial deck to open up. So Weiss Schwarz is a card game system, I suppose you could say, because they basically just do a bunch of different animes. This isn't specific to Sword Art Online. Like Attack on Titan got a set, I think like Excel World has a set, and then more recently they've been doing some of the more sort of classic animes and stuff like that. Like I think Persona and stuff like that also have sets as well. So the idea is pretty much that once it's within the same anime, you can build a deck with it. It's not about mixing and matching anime, it's about doing it within the same one. So SAO has a bunch of different sets, like original SAO, SAO Part 2, I think even AGGO got a set, and the movie also got a set, Ordinal Scale, and now Alicization here. So here's what this is. As you can see here on the top, you get 50 cards. You can see one of them there in the window, one of the hollows. It's the Underworld, of course. And yeah, it's a trial deck is just what they call sort of starter deck. You know, you get started, you know, do a kind of free trial in a way, or whatever you want to call it, with this deck. There's an example of one of the cards there, Alice, Yu-Gi-Oh! And then on the back it just explains like what it is and stuff like that. That you get 50 cards, you get like a rule book and a playmat. And then the important thing here with these is that because this is produced by Bushiroad, all of their card games, they tend to do kind of exclusive stuff even with the trial deck. So you can get these sort of really rare cards in the trial deck, where you have a chance, even within just a starter deck like this, to get like a super special card. So it says here, 2 of the 50 cards in this trial deck plus are shiny cards. There may also be a triple rare card, or even an exclusive SP sign card from the following voice cast in this trial deck. Ai Kayano as Alice Zuberg, or Nobunaga Shimazaki as Yu-Gi-Oh! So that would be really cool if we got one of them. And I think what it means is that if you get you can get this card or this card in like super, you know, shiny and with like a foil stamp of the voice actor's signature. So that would be cool if we get that. But you know, I just think it's a cool thing that like they don't do in a lot of the card games like over here, like you know, the likes of like Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that. Like you'd never see them do something like that where there's a chance to get something in a starter deck. It's just not really something that happens. So okay, there's some tape on this, which is kind of weird, but at least it's packaged well. Okay, here we go. So inside we get this. So we get a pack with our playmat, which has all that stuff there. You get a checklist of some of the cards as well. Okay, that's interesting. And yeah, rule book as well. What I'd say about this game is that like it's not like incredibly complicated to play, but there's kind of just enough sort of extra rules on top of what you think is like a a pretty easy to play game, that it makes it just a little bit like, oh, there's a few things you need to remember that are kind of hard to get. But anyway, opened up, you can see it's nicely packaged here, even this bit of foam in there to protect the cards, because as you can see here, kind of more different than the packaging we sort of get over here. They don't wrap the entire deck in plastic. Instead, it's just like a kind of wrap thing around it. But anyway, let's see what we get here. So first card here is called Primary Trainee Yu-Gi-Oh! And Kirito. And you can see basically the way the cards work is that they have a level up here. These two numbers here is level 0 and then cost 0. The cards go up to level 3, are the most powerful cards, and basically it's usually at the level 2 and 3 where they start to have a cost, but there are some exceptions, of course, all over the place. So of course you're going to get mainly like 0s and 1s, a couple of 2s, and then only a handful of 3s. That's obviously the way the deck is going to be built. You'll see this as a symbol on certain cards because this game has a kind of a flip mechanic based on some actions in the game, and that is where you get like a sort of trigger symbol. And so you get kind of pretty much like nice full art kind of images from the anime. Some of these will just be screenshots, others will be sort of like promo art or even unique art. I think they get some unique art for the game. But yeah, you usually get like a quote as well. So this one is Kirito, the reason you and I have a place at this academy is because we were together. Then you get your effect here, which is a continuous effect. If your stock has 2 or less cards, this card gets 1500 power, and this number here is the power. So yeah, the name is there, and then there's a few sort of traits here, Flux Light and also Weapon. They sort of, I think, mainly link into like cards. Cards, I suppose, in the Alicization set will mention you can search your deck for a Flux Light card, or you can search your deck for like a weapon card or whatever. And then it may not seem like it, but that little symbol there, the sort of gray kind of cross-like thing, the gray plus basically, is the soul. It actually does say soul there. It's kind of hard to make out. And again, given that like that's the amount of damage that it does. Now, when this card attacks, it does that, like that's its kind of damage rating. Obviously, the way the attacking works in this game, I think you get like 1 by default, and so this counts as like another one. But you know, it's kind of weird the way it works. In fact, that there's such a tiny little thing on the card, but it helps to keep the art, the focus, of course, on this one. But that's basically the way it works. There's like I think 2 other types of cards, but one of them you don't really see that much. So there's our first card there. Second card here is Dazzling Gold Alice. That's really nice. I really like the kind of hollow on that. So this is a super rare, like it says there. The other card here was also a super rare, but like this one's really shiny because it has a very kind of just plain background. So that's cool for the little Alice. And again, level 0, cost 0, has an assist effect. Because the way the game works is that, like in terms of the character cards, you have basically like front of the stage and back of the stage. And of course you kind of have more of the supporting characters, or main characters in kind of flashback are kind of almost kind of treated as like assist characters in a way. And so, you know, she'd be a character who goes in the back row. So that's pretty cool. Yep, and then we go into sort of our more normal cards. So we have Memories That Shouldn't Exist, Alice. We get 2 of them. We get our kind of normal version of Dazzling Gold Alice here. Another one of them. And then, okay, so you have 4 copies of that, including a hollow one. Here we have Seeking Ice Alice. So this is obviously from pretty early Alicization, of course. So this is a level 1, as you can see, we've moved up to level 1, cost 1. So that's pretty cool. And again, you can see the reference in the card text there too. When this card attacks, if you have 2 or more other Flux Light characters, this card gets 2000 power until end of turn. Okay, so that's the reference to that. And that's different than a lot of the earlier SAO cards, which would have the tagline Avatar, referencing the fact that they're in a game rather than being specifically in the underworld, where it's, you know, Flux Lights rather than game avatars. So that's that. Here we have Hard Worker Selka, of course, Alice's sister. She's a level 2. She also has the sort of assist, what's it called, backup trait. So this is a card you can use from your hand. So that's pretty cool. Get 2 of them. Here's another level 2, more of a kind of, Alice Synthesis 30 card. This one's called the Osmanthus Knight Alice Synthesis 30. You can see it has 8,000 power here, attack. Level 2, it has one of the sort of trigger symbols up here, and that's the sort of attack symbol soul. So this one would, if you flip this during an attack, you do like an extra damage. So that's cool. So you get 3 of them. That's nice. We have female childhood friend Alice at level 3, 10,000. So you see, there still are sort of like more common level 3s. A lot of the level 3s kind of would have like big, cool art, but this is kind of more of, I suppose, a basic one. But you can see it's got quite a large effect here that kind of does stuff. So that's pretty cool. And then yeah, here's the other type of card here. They're sideways orientated. This is what you call a climax card, with the idea being that you have your character cards, and then your climax cards are basically your event cards. With the idea, of course, being that this is a card game system based off anime, so you have your characters on the stage performing the actions like attacking back and forth. Then you put an event from the anime onto the battlefield in the climax area, which of course powers up all your other cards because the characters react to the plot, of course. And then there are some of the stronger cards in the game that specifically reference, like there might be like an Alice card that says, if crime committed by fingertips is in your climax area, you can do this really powerful effect because, of course, this is an event that relates to Alice. So, of course, one of the Alice cards has an effect that relates to this event. And that's basically sort of how you build your deck around like the best events that link into everything else. But anyway, we have another climax card here with Kirito and Selka called Right Hand Self to Left. So that's the sacred arts being cast there. And again, you'll see these climax cards have like double symbols, so that's the benefit of them. You're only allowed to have, I believe, 8 of these in your deck, and your deck has to have 8 of them, if I remember correctly. So you can have 4 copies of each card, so you have to choose your climax cards correctly. So yeah, we get 2 right hand self to lefts. That's interesting. We'll probably see more of them later on. Next up, we have Somber Expression Yu-Gi-Oh! We get 4 of them. Then we have Seeking Ice Kirito, cool card of a younger flashback Kirito from his, I suppose, his second childhood, if you've watched the show. And that's nice. Here's the normal version of our kind of holo card, our cover card, basically. Primary Trainee Yu-Gi-Oh! So we get 3 of them to bring the total up to 4. Another one of younger Kirito here. Carver of the Giant Tree Kirito. So that's pretty nice. 2 of them. Lunchtime Yu-Gi-Oh! One. And you can see the way that the cards all have names that just relate to it. It's some descriptor, the character. And so, some of the art isn't as interesting in that, like, this is clearly just a screenshot from the show, whereas this one's clearly, like, actual proper promo art or official art done for this game specifically. So, yeah, here's a card that references one of the climax cards. I don't think we've got to it just yet, but it says here, when this card attacks, if Adventure of the Past is in your climax area, and you have another Fluke-like character, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose one Fluke-like character from among them, reveal it to your opponent, put it in your hand, and put the rest into your waiting room. The waiting room is basically the kind of like graveyard, discard pile, whatever way you want to call it. So there's a cool example of if you attack with this level 1 character and the Adventure from the Past climax card is on the field, you can search your deck from the top 4 cards of your deck for a character, because if you're playing this deck, you're playing all Fluke-lights basically. Add one to your hand. So that's pretty cool. That's usually what most of the big effects are. It's the ability to just search your deck for a specific type of card, and that's a pretty notable one. Even though you draw quite heavily in this game, it's nice to search for, like, oh, I need my big level 3 now or whatever. So Memories That Shouldn't Exist Yu-Gi-Oh! And this kind of duo of cards as well. We also had Memories That Shouldn't Exist Alice earlier on. I wonder, did those cards actually link together? Sometimes they do that with this. So Seeking Ice, Dazzling Gold. Yeah, here, memories that shouldn't exist. I don't think it links together. Oh wait, actually it does. So you can see here, if we get one of each of these, yeah, there's a little bit sort of cut off in the middle, but like the idea is that like somewhere around there, the cards do actually link together, and it's meant to be just like a big shot. So that's pretty nice as well, that you get some of those ones of like cards to have the same tagline before the name. So next up, Carver of the Giant Tree Yu-Gi-Oh! So we had Carver of the Giant Tree Kirito before, yeah. So we can do that again here. So this time it's this way. Does this work? This is still kind of, you know, the way the cards are cut, of course. It's more like something like that. Yeah, it's still offset a little bit. So something along those lines is you see the full picture. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But we move on. Lost Child of Vecta Kirito. Level 3, 9,500. Pretty cool. Stacio window, and this is an, what are these ones called again? I think these are like event cards, I think, where it's just a sort of more minor thing within the show that happens, or like an object, rather than like a full-on like plot event happening. So you can see here there's one for the Stacio window. There's no power or anything, it's just like a one and done card. Look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck, put them on top of your deck in the original order, choose it to one character in your waiting room, and return it to hand. So look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck, put them on top of your deck in the original order. So you get to look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and then take a character that's been discarded and put it back in your hand. Kind of a weird effect. I don't know how that specifically relates to the Stacia window, but okay. So here we go. Here's a card that Yu-Gi-Oh card referenced earlier on. Adventure of the Past Climax card. You can see it has a different symbol here. I think that means draw a card when you get that symbol. Yeah, it says it down here. There's reminder text. So Adventure of the Past. All your characters get plus 1,000 power and plus 1 soul. So that's quite good. So we get 3 of them, but there's actually a 4th copy here. Yeah. And then here we go, Alice again, the Osmanthus Nice, Alice Synthesis 30, so we get that again, Lost Child of Vecta, Female Childhood Friend Alice, and Fate Beginning to Change Yu-Gi-Oh! Once again. So, you know, that's the deck. Interesting about the 2 ones that they decided to give as the sort of hollows here, just the younger Alice, and then, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Kirito from a little later on in the series. And then like you only have your one sort of Knight Alice card, and everything else is from much earlier on. I do like that though. It's still all early Alicization stuff. Usually the way these trial decks go is that they give you at least one level 3 card with 10,000 power, and then something else. So yeah, we get a few different types of cards here. But yeah. That's the Sword Art Online Alicization Weiss Schwarz trial deck. And now I'll just set up a little bit of a game and sort of go through the details of how it's actually played. Okay, so here is the game setup. We're going to be playing with these kind of blue, petrol blue deck. Here is going to be the trial deck that I just opened. That's what we're doing with here, just stock straight out of the pack. This deck is the one I've kind of made before using previous Sword Art Online packs. It is a Asuna and Kirito deck, and also Yui as well as support as well, because all of her cards give power to Kirito and Asuna cards. So that's where this one works out quite well. They're both blue and yellow decks, because obviously Kirito is blue and then Asuna is yellow, and then in this case's deck Yu-Gi-Oh is also blue and Alice is yellow. I have another deck which is this red and green deck, and it features basically Lifa and Yuki are green, and then Lisbeth and Silica are red, and that's what makes up all the cards in this deck. Of course there's like a Pina card and stuff like that as well, but this should make for an interesting matchup. So to start off, you draw 5 cards, and you do get a mulligan. Basically, you get to choose cards from your hand that you don't want, put them in the discard pile, and draw back up to 5. So you want level 0s in hand, as many as possible, but you also don't want to just have nothing afterwards, so you kind of want to keep like at least one level 1 in hand. Climax cards, you don't need this early on, so we'll get rid of the 3 and the Climax card to draw 2. So we get another level 0 and a level 2. So we have 3 level 0s in hand, 1 level 1 and 1 level 2. That's fairly okay. And then we'll do the same over here. We drew one too many cards. So they got 2 Climax cards, 2 level 1s. So they'll get rid of... Yeah, they didn't get any level 0, so they'll just get rid of... pretty much the whole hand is probably the best thing to do here to just make sure they get something to play. So yeah, unfortunately only 1 level 0 here on this side of the board, so that could be tricky. But you do get to draw a decent amount of cards in this game. So we'll start off, the trial deck will go first because it technically should be the weaker deck, because this features like rare cards and stuff like that. So you draw, even on the first turn of the game you draw, so we got another level 0. The next phase is called the clock phase, which is where you can choose to basically give yourself 1 damage by putting a card from your hand into your clock, which is basically the damage zone, and then draw 2 cards. So we will do that. You absolutely want to do that in the first turns of the game. Again, the way damage works in this game is that when you get 7 damage, you go from level 0 to level 1. And then when you're on level 1 and you take 7 damage, you go up to level 2. And then you go all the way up until when you're at level 3, and then you take 7 more damage, that's when you lose the game. So the idea is that you have to take like what, 28 points of damage to actually lose the game. So you know, it's pretty decent. So yeah, you take 7 at 0, 7 at 1, 7 at 2, 7 at 3, then you lose the game. So that's what we're going to do. We'll give ourselves 1 damage here by putting this level 2 Alice into our damage zone. And we'll draw 2 cards, and we get even more level 0s. So we have tons of cards to play here. So from the clock phase, we move into the main phase. This is where you play character cards, you pay costs to pay more powerful cards, event cards. Climax cards are played in a phase after this one, but before the attack. So we'll go on anyway. So you basically then choose between putting cards into the center stage or the backstage. Center stage is where you attack from. You can't attack from the backstage. Backstage is where you want to put cards that you want to keep protected, who maybe give boosts to other characters and aren't very powerful themselves. So that's what we'll do here. Like this Yu-Gi-Oh! Only has 500 attack, but he has an ability that says during your opponent's turn, the character in the middle position of the center stage gets 1,500. So he is a very good kind of back row character to play. There's no limit to the number of cards we can play once we can pay for them, but pretty much all level 0s are 0 cost. So that's pretty good. So yeah, that's what we're going to do here. We will play... Yeah, we'll play this Kirito in the center stage, since he's our most powerful kind of card in hand. We'll put this Kirito up front as well, and we'll put this card up front also. Now, we do have 2 other level 0s, but we can't really use them right now because they won't give boost to any card on the field right now. So it's better to keep them in hand for later on in case we need to replace cards, rather than just filling up the zones needlessly. So we've played our cards here. We get to attack once, even though it is the very first turn of the game. Usually you could attack with all 3 cards in your front row if you wanted to. So that's what we're going to do. We'll just attack with, I suppose, just the center one. None of the effects are going to be too beneficial right now. But when you attack, there are 3 different ways to attack. What we're doing here is called a direct attack because there's no characters on the field, so we're just directly attacking the player for damage. There's a frontal attack, which is when you attack your opponent's character, and then there's a side attack, which is when there is a character in front of you, but you choose to attack around them. And basically the difference between the attacks is how much damage you do. When there's no enemy in front, you get +1 soul, so you do 1 extra damage compared to what you have on the card. When it's a frontal attack, it's sort of neutral. You attack the character, and you do just the amount of damage that is listed on the card in terms of soul and whatever your trigger check is. And then when you do a side attack, so when you want to avoid the character, it is the soul of your card minus the level of the character card you're going around. So for level 0s, it's obviously -0, it doesn't do anything, but later on in the game, that does become a sort of important kind of point. But anyway, in this case, we're doing a direct attack, so this Kirito has 1 soul, he's doing a direct attack, so it's 2 soul, and then what you do in terms of the attack is we're attacking, we flip 1 card from the top of our deck, we check if there's a trigger icon on it, which in this case there is. That is a soul symbol. That means he gets +1 soul. This card that we flipped goes into our stock to act basically as energy for paying other cards later on. So we're doing 3 damage, and the way damage works is that your opponent flips cards from the top of their deck into their clock, but you have to check for climax cards. So 1 damage, and so they flipped the climax card straight away because it's the sideways card. This cancels the damage. Like, even if they had flipped like a bunch of cards before, like the first 2 cards were normal, and then this was the third, this would still cancel the first 2 damage, and then because it's the first one, it cancels the entire damage. Like, we don't flip any more cards. This just brings the attack to an end. That's why you can only play 8 climax cards in your deck. Otherwise the game would just be constantly blocked attacks. But you do eventually run out, of course, by putting them in the waiting room and stuff like that. So that's an important point as well. So no damage on the first turn. The turn ends, so we go over to the other deck here. So they will put their level 3 Kirito into the clock to draw 2 cards, and they got another level 0. So in this case, this is an example of like a perfect like assist character. This Yui is the kind of perfect assist character. It says, assist, all characters in front of this card get +500 power, and then you can turn this card sideways to give a Kirito or Asuna card 500 power as well. So very good back row card here, Yui. So we'll put her in the back row here, and then we'll put this Kirito up front as well. Now this Kirito unfortunately only has 1,000 attack, but it does say that you know, it has abilities that can do other stuff. This is mainly a support Kirito as well, but they have to attack to some degree here, otherwise they're going to be behind. Usually you'd want to put that Kirito in the back row, but you know, anyway. So what they'll do here is they are going to do a side attack, because even if they do the full power up, this will only be 2,000. And when you have a character attack another character like here, and their attack is the same, both characters are at risk of being, you know, taken out. So they're going to do a side attack, so attack around this Kirito, which early on doesn't matter because it's 1 damage minus the level of this card, which is level 0, so it's still doing 1. So they do the trigger check, nothing, this goes into stock, and then 1 damage over here. So we flip a card, and even though it has a trigger icon, because it's like a damage check, it just is damage. So 2 damage over here, only 1 damage over there, that's fine. So that brings their turn to an end, and we come back over here. And you can see basically the way the game is going to sort of swing back and forth. We'll choose to do our clock thing, so we'll put 1 card into damage to draw 2 more cards. And we can see we're building up a pretty decent hand here. We've got some level 1s in hand for when we take more damage, and some level 0s also. So here's the kind of this deck's equivalent of that Yui. All characters in front of this card get +500 power. So that's pretty good. And it also has another ability as well. When a climax card is placed in your climax area, choose one of your characters, and that character gets 1,000 power until end of turn. We don't have any climax cards to play, but anyway. So at the start of your turn, you always flip your cards back up like this after they've attacked. So now it's our turn to attack again. But this time we can choose to use our abilities. And in this case, we have 2 abilities that we can use. We can either use this Yu-Gi-Oh here or this Kirito's ability. And the Kirito's ability says when this card is placed on the stage. Oh no, we can't use that one because you have to use that the second it's played. But we can use Yu-Gi-Oh's ability, which is called Brainstorm, which is flip over 4 cards from the top of your deck and put them into your waiting room. For each climax card revealed among those cards, draw up to 1 card. So we have to pay 1 stock and also exhaust this card, so turn it sideways, which we'll do. We'll pay our 1 stock, which is just taking it from the stock into the waiting room. We'll turn this card sideways, and then we check the top 4 cards of the deck for climax cards. We didn't get any, so the ability didn't do anything, but still it kind of goes through the deck, which is fairly okay to do. Now we'll do our attacks. So this is a direct attack over here. Again, the center and this zone here are empty, so this is going to be a direct attack. So it's 2 already, so we flip a card, nothing, but this goes into stock. So 2 damage, flip, flip, nothing. So they take these 2 damage over here. This one is also a direct attack, so it's again 2 damage. So we do 1 flip, nothing, but it goes into stock, and they're going to take the 2. So 1, 2. So they have 5 damage now. And then over here, we can choose to either attack the opponent or do a side attack. In this case, we are going to attack the opponent, which is good. So in this case, it has 1,500, we have 2,000, and it's so early that they won't have any cards in hand to boost that up. So we're just going to do a direct attack. So frontal attack is here, so we do attack. It's just 1 soul here going in. We still do our check, so we do our check, nothing, goes into stock. So we now have 3 stock after those 3 attacks. Then we compare the power. So it's 2,000 power. It's actually it's actually 3,000 power, because this Kirito gives another character 1,000 power when it attacks. So that's transferred over here. So it's well powerful enough. So what happens is this card gets turned completely upside down. So it may look the right way up to you, but because it's the other side of the board, it being right way up is actually upside down. So the card isn't immediately destroyed. They have an opportunity to try and get it back, which I'll explain in a second, but the damage goes through. So 1 damage, so flip, it's done. So they now have 6 damage, and then they have this opportunity. It's called the encore step. This character will be destroyed if they don't encore, and to do an encore, they have to pay 3 stock. They don't have 3 stock, so the character does get sent to the waiting room, the discard pile, whatever way you want to call it. So that's a cool thing for later on in the game with your more powerful cards, is to pay stock to keep them in play. You don't really want to do that with level 0s unless you're absolutely desperate, but anyway. So yeah, next up we go to our opponent's turn. So they draw. They will then put a card into the clock. But what happens here is, okay, they'll do the draw. They get 2 because they did that, the damage to themselves. But they're on 7 damage now. So what happens is that they have to choose one of their cards in their clock to act as basically the marker for level 1. Now this is an important decision because you can only play level 1, 2, and 3s from your hand when you're on the right level if you have a card of the same color in the clock or in the level area. So in this case, they're going to go up to level 1s, and in terms of level 1s, they have all their level 1s in hand are yellow. So they have to make sure that they choose a yellow card from the clock, which there is actually only 1 here. So this has to act as the level marker. So Asuna all the way over here will be the level marker, and then the other 6 damage goes into the waiting room. So, that's the sort of stage. They're on level 1, they can use level 1 cards now, but they're all the closer to actually being defeated. So this is back row Yui, but yeah, now they can play level 1s. So they have 4 level 1 Asunas here to use, all variety of different types and so on. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pay 1 for this pretty powerful agile start Asuna, and we'll go into the center zone here with that, and then we'll have to use our level our 0 cost Asunas as well. So this is a very good level 1 back row Asuna as a more supporting character, and this one can go here. And then also we have, we'll keep the other Asuna for later on. There's no need to do it. Actually, no, we'll play it. So this Asuna will go in the front row as well. So this has the ability of when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, this card gets +1 soul until end of turn. So you can return 2 characters from your waiting room into the deck and shuffle your deck to give this an extra soul. So that's actually really, really good. So we'll place that down. and then we get to put 2 characters from the waiting room back into the deck. So at this point we want to sort of put like good level 1s and maybe some level 2s back into the deck. So that's what we'll do. Kirito, yeah, but these 2 Kiritos I suppose are level 1s that are quite good. So we'll shuffle them into the deck. And even though that only has 1000 power, you know, it gets +1 soul, and because it's up against a level 0, that's perfectly fine. It'll probably be taken out like next turn, but you know, it's still pretty good. Do they have a climax card? No, but we'll go from here. So no stock or anything like that. Yeah. So we'll do this one first. So this has 2 soul because of its ability, and it attacks. Yeah. So it attacks for 2 soul. It's going to be a side attack because it doesn't quite have the power to defeat it. So it's 2-0 still, though. They do the trigger check. Nothing, but this goes into stock. So 2 damage. So 1, 2. We take the 2 damage. So we're on 5 damage now. That attack was quite successful. Here, this Asuna has 8000 power, but it says if the character facing this is a higher level than this card cannot frontal attack. So it's just the idea of it's a very powerful early card, but it can't take out cards that are more powerful than itself. It has to side attack or direct attack. But we're okay here. We're going to do a frontal attack because this is only a level 0. So we'll do our check. Here we get the symbol that we want, so power goes up to 2, soul power goes up to 2, this goes into stock. The power is fine, so this card gets reversed, and then we do the check for 2 damage, so 1, 2, and we take the 2. We now have 7 damage and get to choose what card goes into our stock. In our case, we have blue level 1 cards, so we want to put a blue card into our, to act as our level 1 marker. So we'll put that here, like so. So that means we can use blue cards next turn, but their attack is still going on. They now have this one as well. This actually has like 6000 power because its effect gives it plus 1500 until, like during the first turn basically. And then I think it's plus 500 for this Asuna as well. So it's like 6500, but it's well enough to defeat it. So this Kirito gets reversed. We do the trigger check. It's +1 attack. So it's 2 soul coming in. They get this as stock. So 1, 2. So we take 2 damage here. So they've actually taken the lead on that turn. They're on level 1, but no damage. We're on level 1, 2 damage. So that's an example of how the game can sort of swing quite quickly. So anyway, we could choose to save our 2 Kiritos here because we do have the ability to encore one of them, but we're not going to. We don't really want to save level 0 characters. So both of these Kiritos go away. So our very effective first 2 turns have led to them being taken out. But anyway, we'll go to our turn. So we draw a card, and then we can put a card from our hand into the clock to draw 2 cards. So we can now start to get rid of level 0s because we're on level 1. We want to get more level 1s and sort of build to level 2. And we drew some level 1s, which is good. So here's an example of an event card that we got. So it's level 1, cost 1, no like power or anything like that because it just is a card that goes. So we play that, we pay 1 cost, and it says look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put them back on top of your deck in that order, but you can choose 1 card in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So we basically just get a peek at the top 3 cards of our deck. So it's a climax card, which is good, meaning that symbol will go off when we attack unless we choose to like do an ability that like draws us a card or something like that. But either way, that's that. So that's pretty good. And we can choose a character from our waiting room and return it to hand. So we want to get a level 1 or maybe a level 2 into hand here. Do we have any good level 1s? Memories that shouldn't exist. Yeah, so what we'll do this, we'll get this Yu-Gi-Oh! Because we do have the Alice card that goes with that. So we'll get that into our hand to see if that combo is actually any good. So we will then play this Yu-Gi-Oh! Over here, which is pretty good. Our cards stand up again, of course, because it's our turn. The event card goes to the waiting room as well. And then we are also going to play some other cards. We'll play Lunchtime Yu-Gi-Oh here, and then we can actually replace cards. You can choose to basically destroy your own card to replace it with a card. So this Kirito will go to the waiting room, and we'll put this Yu-Gi-Oh out. So that's pretty good. Then what we are going to do is we will actually we'll get rid of our Yu-Gi-Oh in the back row and put in Memories That Shouldn't Exist, Alice. So this has the ability, because these two cards are both Memories That Shouldn't Exist, she says all of your other Memories That Shouldn't Exist Yu-Gi-Oh get plus 1000 power. So that's good for over here. So now we can do our attacks. So we are going to do, this Yu-Gi-Oh is going to frontal attack this Asuna, because it is powerful enough to defeat it. So we flip a card, we know what it was. This symbol here with the book means that we draw a card. So that happens like immediately. We draw a card into our hand. This goes into our stock, and we are doing still 1 damage, but we're powerful enough to defeat Asuna, who gets reversed. 1 damage. It's a climax card, so the damage is cancelled. Then we go here. Lunchtime Yu-Gi-Oh gets 500 power for each of your other Fluct-like characters. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 2000 power. That's 6500 plus the 500 from Dazzling Gold Alice. So that's like what, 7000 I think at this point. Still not quite enough. So we're going to have to do a side attack here. So we're not powerful enough here, so we do a side attack. In this case, it counts. This has 1 soul. Since we're doing a side attack around the character, it's -1. So technically we're actually attacking for 0 right now. We have to hope the flip gives us a trigger. So when we flip, we don't get the trigger we want, but we get a trigger. So we get to draw another card. So we do that. But this goes into stock, and no damage happens because we had no soul there, basically. Here we will also, let me just read this card first. When this card becomes reversed, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is level 1 or higher, you may put this card into your stock. So, this card has a thing for if you defeat it. We'll actually just try and do that now anyway. So we will attack this. We have well enough power because it's 5000 versus 1000. This will get reversed. We'll do our check though. So we got another one of these, so we get to draw again. For some reason, all of the Adventures of the Past Climax cards were together. This goes into stock. And we're doing 1 damage. So that's going to happen. So we flip. The 1 damage does indeed happen. And then this card says, when it is reversed in battle, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is 1 level higher, so it's a level 1, you can put this card into stock instead of letting it be defeated. So it's level 0, so that doesn't work. So they can choose to keep it, they won't, so Asuna gets taken out. This Asuna gets taken out as well. But we didn't do that much damage that turn, unfortunately. That's not great. That's probably an example of some of the Climax cards here not having the best symbols in this deck, but that's just the way it is. So we go over here once again. I'm not going to do like the full game here because we'll be here forever, but we'll just kind of build up to some of the stuff, and I'll explain some of the other kind of rules as we go through. So so we'll put this level 0 Kirito into stock to draw 2 cards. And this is another example of things of like, the level isn't the only thing that determines what cards you can use, it's also the cards in stock. So because there's blue cards in the clock as well as the yellow card in the level, you can now use level 1s of blue and yellow over here. So that's important to note. But they only have 1 card in hand, and it is a backup card. So that's important. That means like they can, from hand, when they're facing an attack, discard this to make something gain 1000 attack. But it's not particularly helpful right now. They don't have too much ability to do anything right now because it's mainly level 3s and 2s in hand. But they'll play this Kazuto down to try and do something here. And we'll probably have to use some of these abilities now as well. Yeah, so we'll do this Brainstorm from Asano. We pay 1, reveal the top 4 cards of the deck, and then for each climax revealed, a character gets 2,000 power until end of turn. So we'll pay the cost, draw 4 cards, not draw 4, but look at 4. So it's 1. That means this Kazuto gets plus 2,000 power, which is quite good. That means that it might be able to do something here. And then any other abilities that we can activate. What does Kazuto do? When your other character attacks, you may pay the cost. If you do until end of turn, that gets the... that ability isn't particularly great. This should be stood up this way. And yeah, from here we will just do this. So this will be a frontal attack against Lunchtime Yu-Gi-Oh! We flip our card here. Nothing, but it goes into stock. We're going in for 1 damage. This gets reversed. 1 damage. It goes through. And then over here, there's the bonus of... Let's see, yeah. So we'll turn Yui sideways. That means that this Kazuto gets the 2,000 plus an extra 1,000. So it's powerful enough to defeat this Yu-Gi-Oh! Except for the fact that Alice is doing the same. But because it's level 0 versus level 1, it's actually worth the trade-off. So instead of doing a side attack and risking not doing any damage, they're going to try and do the trade. So they're going to attack, frontal attack. They both have the same power. So they'll do the trigger check. This is actually really good. So this is 2 symbols here. One of them is an attack symbol, so it does 1 extra damage. And then the whirlwind kind of trigger, basically it's... You may choose one of your opponent's characters and return it to your opponent's hand. So that's a pretty interesting ability. And what that means is that they can just kind of get rid of whatever is in front of them. This battle's already happening, so they have to choose basically this probably to put back in hand. So that's pretty good. And yeah, this gets reversed. This gets reversed, but it's still doing 2 damage. So 1, 2. So we're nearly at level 2 over here, but these 2 cards will go away. We don't want to pay the cost to keep this Yu-Gi-Oh! In play, nor do they want to pay the cost to keep their Kirito in play, and that will end their turn. So while they're low on cards, they're still getting the damage through, which is quite good. This Yu-Gi-Oh! Also gets defeated as well, but I think I might want to keep that. Yeah, I will actually pay to encore this Yu-Gi-Oh! Just because I don't want to be like completely empty. So yeah, this Yu-Gi-Oh! Is saved by the encore. And then we go over to our turn. So we stand him, we draw a card. We will put a card into our clock. In this case, we now have 7 damage once again. I'll put a yellow card into our level here. So you can see now that we have a blue and a yellow card, meaning that for the rest of the game we can play all of our cards once we have the right levels. So that's fine. Our damage goes into the grave, but we're still halfway to being defeated here. So that's not good. We draw 2 cards for the clock. And yeah, from here, yeah, we can play level 2s if we want, but we don't actually have any in hand. So we're going to have to play level 0s and probably a climax card this turn as well. So that's what we're going to do. We'll pay 1 to put Seeking Ice Alice into play. We'll put Memories That Shouldn't Exist Yu-Gi-Oh! Over here, and I think that's about it. Yeah. In terms of abilities, do we have anything to activate? No. So before our attack step, we'll play our climax card here. So what this says is all of your characters get plus 1,000 power and plus 1 soul. That's all the 3 across the top. The main thing there will be the soul here. So this is a direct attack. So it's 1, 2, 3. We flip 1, nothing. So 3, 1. Damage is cancelled because it's a climax. we'll do the direct attack over here. So again, it's 1, 2, 3. We'll flip 1, that goes into stock. 1, 2, 3. That actually goes through, so they now have 5 damage. And yeah, final one here is this still doesn't have enough attack to defeat that one, so they have to go around. So this is again is going to be 1 minus 1. This is where it gets a little bit complicated in that we're doing a normal attack here, but we do have the climax. So it's going to be 2 soul minus 1 because we're doing a side attack, so it's 1 soul going through. We still do our trigger check though. We get 1, so it goes up to 2, so we're going to be doing 2 damage now. And then we do that check here, 1, and it gets cancelled. So that could have got them to level 2, but it got cancelled. But still, that was an okay turn, not the best. At the end of the turn, the climax card goes away. That effect goes off, and we move over to this turn. And that's basically the flow of the game from here on out. We'll do that. So yeah, we draw a card, we put a card from into the clock, so draw 2 cards, and we can still only play level 1s, so and 0s I suppose as well. Also invites to party. Yeah, so we'll put this Asuna here, and we'll play this Yui as well, who has the ability of when this card is placed onto the stage from your hand, look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck and put it on the top of your deck in any order. So yeah, that just means you can order the top 2 cards of your deck, and also if we play a climax, which we can't this turn, it has another ability, but anyway, it goes here. That probably won't be doing much damage, so we'll do that first. So this is going to have to be a so yeah, when it's placed on the field, we can look at these. So yeah, we want to keep this on top so we get the effect. So we attack, we're doing a side attack, so it's 1 minus 1. We flip, it goes up to 2, so we're going to be doing 1 damage at least here. So 1, but it's a climax card, it doesn't do anything. We'll do a frontal attack here. So we'll flip, nothing. This gets reversed, and this is going to be 1 damage as well. So we flip, it's also a climax card, nothing happens, but we do get, Yu-Gi-Oh! Does get taken out at that point. Over here, actually I forgot to activate this ability, this gives Asuna an extra 500. So the attack here is plus 1000 for its own ability, plus no, this will go through. This is fine, I think. 1000, 2000. Oh no, it's the same, so they can choose to trade if they wanted to. But so do they want to do the damage or not? They'll just do a side attack here. They don't want to risk the card. Let me just check. Yeah. So yeah, they'll do the check. Nothing. So it's 1 minus 1, so it doesn't do anything, so no damage, and it switches back over to us. Now this is where it kind of gets important of we don't have any level 2s in hand, we need to get that, so let's hope that happens. We draw a climax card, which is still pretty good. And this is a very good one as well. This says all your characters get plus 2 soul. That's very, very powerful. But we will put Alice into the clock to draw 1 card. Now when we run out of cards in our deck, what happens is that we just shuffle our waiting room and then make it our deck, but we take 1 damage because we had to do a deck reset. That's the way it works. So top card from our hand goes into clock as well, and we draw 1 more card because we didn't draw both cards from the clock phase. So yeah, now we're going to have to deal with what cards we do and do not put on the field. So what are we going to do here? Will this work? Plus 2000. No. Yeah, this is getting kind of tricky here to know exactly what to do. I do wish we had a better card, but I'll just play Lunchtime Yu-Gi-Oh here and go from here. So this attack is going to be a... Actually, yeah, before I do the attacks, I will play the Climax card. So we'll play right hand self to left. Everything gets +2 soul. That could have been actually quite good if that was a different Climax card. Then this would have been powerful enough to finally defeat this. So still early on in the game, 8,000 power with a slight boost from behind is still extremely powerful to defeat. So this will be a frontal attack to try and take out Yui here. So we flip, this goes into stock. Yui is going to be reversed, and this will be 3 soul because it's 1 + 3. So 1, 2, 3. So that goes through, and this is a good example of sort of damage. They already have 6 damage and they're taking 3. That goes up to 9. So what happens here is that they take the first damage and it goes in. This is their 7. So then they have to level up from here. They'll choose a blue card to be the next level. So they're on level 2 now. These all go away because these are the extra ones from level 6. And then they take the remaining 2 damage still. That damage doesn't get cancelled just because they went up a level. So they still take that. And it's even now. Everyone's level 2. Everyone has 2 damage in level 2. And we're still attacking over here. So we'll attack here first, which is that this has... How much attack does this have? This is 1,000 plus 6,000. It's the same, but this will be a frontal attack because this will be like attacking for like 8,500. This doesn't have enough to combat that. So we flip 1. We don't get anything. This is 3 soul. This gets reversed, so it's 3. They have to then do a deck reset as well. So they shuffle this. They take a damage. And then they have to take 3 damage. 1, 2, cancelled, unfortunately. But that could have been like a really big turn of like nearly getting them into level 3. And you know, from here the game just continues to progress as you move into using more and more level 2s, and you eventually get up to level 3s. I'll just kind of stop it here so I don't do the full game basically. Yeah, but anyway, that's the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.